And then I also invited everyone, if you want to mute yourself, you're welcome to do that. We will be having a participant check-in and discussion after exercises or applications. So you'll be able to unmute yourself. I don't anticipate muting everyone through this, but we will have some individual time to engage in the exercises and journal. And I would encourage you muting yourself. Maybe you have a dog barking in the background, so I wouldn't want that to interfere with other people's learning and engagement. So hi, welcome to the Kirkridge Zoom room. I'm Justine Johnson. I'm the Associate Director here at Kirkridge Retreat and Study Center. And I'm just so happy you're here. This is the first time that I'm holding a Zoom room space, still new on the language, but it's not the first time that Kirkridge has held this. And I think it's important to note that we're all new to this experience. And for me, this next 90 minutes is about us all being knowers and learners. Something Ewelina and I had talked about ahead of time is this is something we're interested and passionate about, but we're also hoping to learn from you in the next 90 minutes about what inspires you, what gives you awe, where are your wonderments, and hopefully we can all share together. Before I begin, I am going to share my screen about a little bit of the next 90 minutes. What's that going to look like for you so you're prepared? So we're going to do introductions. Ewelina and I are going to spend some time chatting about who we are and how we've come to be here today. And then we're going to invite you in to do a participant check-in. We'll role model that so you know what's expected and why we've decided to do it that way. Then, because I love science, we're going to talk a bit about what actually wonder is. Ewelina is going to walk us through definitions and connections, and then I'm going to talk about the benefits. You must already recognize that there are some benefits because you're here in this room with us. Then we're going to spend the majority of time, about 45 minutes, doing practical application or exercises. There's not necessarily a beautiful word about that, but we're going to do practical application. What does it actually look like to find wonder in your home or in your surrounding spaces? And then we'll close with some reflection. Hopefully there's time for journaling and processing all together. Okay? Can I just get a head nod if we're feeling good about that? Wonderful. So let me just admit some people while we are waiting. Okay. So where we're at is our stories. So I'm going to be the tech person and also the timekeeper and a little bit of the facilitator. So just so you know, please be patient with me as I navigate this. But here we are. This is Ewelina and I's short story of how we came to be April 16th, 2020, working together again. For those of you who know me, my background is in higher education, social justice, and inclusion. There I met Ewelina working at the University of Scranton, a Catholic and Jesuit university in Scranton, Pennsylvania. So here we are, I think we're in DC in the picture on the left, doing some social justice work. Lower picture is us presenting on social justice ally development. And then finally, the picture in my upper right corner of the computer is us at Kirkridge. So we've had about 8 years of experience, individual work. Ewelina is going to talk about her work now, hopefully, while I admit people into the room. And then I'll tell you where I've been. And then we'll talk about how we find wonder in our lived experiences and what that means for today.
Hi, everybody. Welcome. I hope that you are just as excited to be here as I am. It's definitely been a journey to get to this point. So I'm just going to tell you a little bit about myself. And as Justine said, how is it that I have come to sit in front of you? So in March, so actually today it marks a month when I found out that I was being evacuated from Peace Corps service in Eswatini in Africa. It's a small country in Southern Africa, and I was doing youth development work there, working on HIV/AIDS prevention mitigation services for in and out of school youth. And I was doing that with the local community that I was placed with, as well as the school counterparts. So we organized different programming for both youth and teachers and service providers to get everybody to be able to understand and have more access to information about how to provide more youth-friendly spaces. Outside of that, I also did work on gender-based violence when I was there, focusing on young men and women, how men can be allies to women, because gender norms are much stronger in the culture that I was working with. And so when the time for evacuation came, unfortunately due to the pandemic, I reached out to Justine, and so she graciously, with other people at Kirkridge, hosted me to make sure that I didn't get the virus through the travels back to United States. Prior to working with Peace Corps, I worked at Misericordia University, where I was a resident director doing different programming and crisis intervention services for college students, while simultaneously doing gender-based violence programming there as well. So I ended up in that route of programming, partially due to Justine, because we connected at University of Scranton when I was studying counseling and services as an undergrad. So it's been a wonderful journey to go through all of this and then go apart and then come back together and reconnect, and now talk about how do we find healing and time of reflection during this unique time that we are in right now. So thank you and welcome.
Thanks, Ewelina. It's been really fun to get reacquainted. One, as Ewelina was a student of mine, intern in the Women's Center that I oversaw, and now again as colleagues. So that's been wonderful for me. At the same time she was doing the Peace Corps, I was living in Vietnam. That was the position I had before I came to Kirkridge. So both of us have really been challenged to step outside of what we would consider normal or our everyday mainstream routines, and rely on what's inside to find wonder, creativity, and even just amusement while we are challenged to live in these new environments. For me, living in Vietnam, and before that, I was a Peace Corps volunteer in Kyrgyzstan over a decade ago. I was challenged to really entertain myself, explore, learn, before I had fully grasped the language and made new communities. So I think for me, what's beautiful about this is that it's coming full circle in a lot of ways. Also, our work in social justice, for me, this is deeply rooted in social justice. I see seeking wonder and awe as a part and form of self-care and self-soothing. And to me, that's absolutely a social justice issue, specifically around how do we make seeking awe, how do we create self-care that's accessible for all identities and lived experiences? And I think that's part of this conversation as well. So when Ewelina was here, 2 weeks ago, she left, right? Just about, you said, Ewelina?
Yes.
We started talking about how to keep her really entertained for 2 weeks of solitude at Kirkridge. While we were able to talk every day, we weren't able to share meals, to work together in close proximity. And she had a lot of time to hike her trails, to read, to engage. And I think that's what spurred this, is finding wonder when it doesn't seem that wonderful. Another part of this is also, both of us have really aligned that wondering, being in wonder, is also wandering and being lost in your thoughts or lost in space. And we'll talk a little bit more about that, but that's really where we're coming from. I think of today as I prepare for this, and specifically about finding wonder at home, what does that mean? And I was checking on my kimchi. At Kirkridge, I started becoming way more earthy than I was before in Vietnam or even in Scranton, Pennsylvania. And so now I'm fermenting kimchi. And then I'm poking it and letting air bubbles escape. And it just challenged me to slow down, to wonder, to watch air bubbles rise and be grateful for that space, for this activity. and the nourishment it gave me. So I just want to share that example as a way to kind of check in of how we can use this in our everyday life. And so, Ewelina, do you want to add anything before we continue?
Yes, so as Justine said, I spent a lot of time reflecting on my past experiences, and now particularly on my service, and coming back to the way that United States is right now is definitely, I mean, that's something that I expected, and that's something that a lot of volunteers expected, and so it's a whole new readjustment experience. And so I ask myself often, just in general in my life, why do people do certain things? Why do people care? Why do people engage in social justice work? And yet I do social justice work. And I've never been able to really find, I guess, a concrete answer to that. And so through this process of reflecting on wonder and awe and thinking about what do those terms really mean to me, I find that at times you don't really need to have a concrete answer to a question like that. And so when I ask myself, why do health professionals continue to go to work and put themselves in situations where they might be exposed, but they continue to provide services so that other people can be safe and healthy, I tell myself that it's because they care. And so I really reflect on that and how much care and love for other people is so important. And when I think of a word that I can associate with wonder, I think of gratitude and appreciation for those that are around us. So maybe at this time, if you would like to think about what is a word that you associate with the word wonder or awe, what is something that comes to mind? And how do you reflect on it? As I connect my battery.
So while Ewelina connects her battery, I think this is a great space to do introductions. You've heard a little bit about us, and we welcome you in to do a participant check-in. So I put in the chat box your name, geographical location, and one word or phrase about wonder, as Ewelina said. And this is invitational. You can use the chat box. You can unmute yourself and engage, but we won't call on you. We'll just give space and time for that. And then we'll talk about what all those words may mean for us. So whoever feels moved to go first, you are welcome to it.
My name is Rob, and I'm from Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, also a trustee on the board. And when I think of awe and wonder, I think of beauty.
Thank you.
My name is Susan Rushing, and I'm in Jacksonville, Florida. And I found out about this through my sister who lives in Easton. And when I think of awe and wonder, I think of that picture I just saw of you two on top of the mountain at Kirkridge.
Susan.
I'm Margie from Canada. And when I think of wonder, I think of the pussy willow that I saw just budding in my garden yesterday. And it just filled me with delight.
Wonderful, Margie, thank you.
My name is Patricia Rubano. I'm in San Diego, California, and Patty Smith forwarded the invitation. And when I think of wonder and awe, I think of entering an open, unknowing space.
Mm. Mm.
Here you have to join.
My name is Monica, and I'm calling from Montreal, Canada. And I wanted to go after Patricia because I also thought of open. Open in terms of beauty opening us, but open in terms of I wonder what's happening next, and putting ourselves in a place to be open to it, to welcome it.
Thank you.
I don't know how this thing works. Do I unmute myself or am I on now?
Unmuted. You were perfect. We hear you.
I pushed chat. Okay, so in addition to wonder being this technology that I don't understand, but how wonderful to be with all of you. Wonder for me is also about ambiguity and not knowing and accepting that with awe, rather than feeling like I have to understand and know everything that's going around or is around me.
Thanks, Michael. You had the like 3 whammy wonder of tech, wonderful community, and wonderments.
Yeah. Thank you.
This is Juanita from East Stroudsburg, PA, right down the street from Kirkridge. And I'm in awe and wonder at the moment that I'm in. It's amazing. I'm like, is it really happening? I am in this moment at this time, in this age, and I can put something down maybe on paper, and I can look back at this and wonder about how this whole thing has happened across the world. And that's really what I'm in awe about. So it's amazing. It's beyond what I can possibly think.
Juanita.
Yeah.
This is Patty, and I'm in Rhode Island, and the sun is just passing over my windows and shining on me, which is a delight. And I like, Justine, you said wander. And for me, wandering is when I allow myself to wander my eyes, my senses out into the world, or when I allow myself to wander and ponder my inner self.
Thanks, Patty.
Hello, everyone. This is Michael, and I'm calling in from Santa Fe, New Mexico. And for me, I associate mystery with wonder and awe. So my word for this moment is mystery.
Great, Michael. Good to see you.
Hi, this is Sue Lyons in Stroudsburg, Pennsylvania, just a little bit north of Kirkridge. And I guess my word that I associate with wonder is nature. And despite the stresses of this time and worrying about keeping people on payroll and reading books about the plague, it's looking out my window, it's just gorgeous right now. And I'm trying to learn about the trees that surround my house and taking some time to become a somewhat better naturalist and connect with the beauty that's around me.
Thanks, Sue.
I'm Bob Coombe. I'm in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Another crowded city where we all wear masks, even in the office sometimes. I'm in my own office, so I'm free. First word that came to me with wonder is innocence.
Same word.
Not knowing, no prejudices. A child, you know. Look what makes a child smile. I don't want to lose that.
Wow.
You wonder in that.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
You all sound like experts.
Yeah, we're going to turn this around and you can facilitate these exercises.
Yes.
Okay? No? Okay. I just want to let you know if there are people on the phone, the chat box was also really moving. I'm not going to say names and locations, but I just want to give some of the other phrases, such as depths of one's being, Joy, joy, joy. Something that can take your breath away. Hope, creativity and creation. Joy. Oh, lots of joy. So that's where we're at. We'll just give about 1 more minute in case anyone feels moved to speak again.
I have in my head, am I here? There we go. I have in my head this lyrics to I Wonder As I Wander Out Under the Sky. And then it gets religious in a way that I'm not, but the whole sense of the miracle of what is this universe and how does this universe speak to us and what are we doing here and what is our relationship to whatever powers there are, seems to be a part of this also.
Yes.
Sorry, what's the name of the song?
Was that a question to me?
Yes, what is the name of the song?
It goes, I wonder as I wander out under the sky. You know that? Oh, Jesus, our
in their head.
come
Yeah.
forward to die.
I do now.
For poor ornery people like you and like I wonder as I wander out under the sky. That fits what we're going through today too, in terms of the arrogance that we all are in awe of.
Michael, I thought you were the poet, not the singer.
I'm not a singer.
Look at many hats you're wearing.
Thank you.
Wonderful. And I think that was one of the words. All of the words you touched on are part of this definition. So Ewelina, do you want to walk us through some of that content?
Yeah, so I was jotting down as you were all speaking. And so some of the things that you said, in addition to what Justine read in the chat, you talked about being open, not knowing what's coming up next, or ambiguity, accepting things that are happening around us. It's hard to not really know what's happening at this moment. And one person talked about how wonderful it is to be able to write things down and then later be able to look back about what's happening in our lives right now. And somebody else talked about the sun passing and the light that they are looking at, and allowing yourself the time to reflect and to look within. And somebody talked about getting in touch with nature, which I think is really beautiful, to be able to reflect about the things that are immediately around us that maybe we didn't notice before, or we didn't have time to notice before. And so wonder is just that. So for me, looking at wonder, like I said before, is something that I have just started to engage in on a conscious level, but it's something that I learned about myself that I had been doing for a long time, but didn't have the language to articulate it. And so as we were preparing for this presentation to engage in this dialogue, looking at different resources and different opinions, I found that wonder is something that applies to different people in different ways. And some people talk about wonder in this as if it's looking through the eyes of a child and not losing that. So when one of you talked about innocence, looking at situations through a sense of curiosity. And so wonder is being in the darkness or questioning things, not knowing the answer to something or what is going to happen in the future. And then awe being the light. So when you find the answer that you are looking for, it's something that comes to you and you feel as though you finally understand what is happening around you. And it sounds to me, as I'm reflecting on the different answers that you have given, is that a lot of us right now are questioning what is happening around us and not knowing what is going to come into the future, because, well, nobody knows the future just at any point in time. But sitting in this unprecedented time, we can't predict like we can with situations where maybe we feel safe. So when people have a routine, they can anticipate that okay, so today I'm going to get up, I'm going to go to work, I'm going to meet my colleagues, and then I'm going to come home, and the routine continues. And so that makes us feel safe and secure. And at this time, not having the safety of a routine for a lot of us, that can make us feel unsure about what's happening next. So while it can be scary to be in that situation, for people who are looking at wonder, they also say that there's a sense of magic in that, because it allows us the possibility to process and really dive deep into things that we didn't consider before. So, for example, going back to the person that talked about nature and looking at the trees around the house, if before somebody didn't have the opportunity to look at that, maybe because they were focusing on their routine, then now they have the opportunity to process things and look at things in a new way that they didn't notice before. So looking at wonder is basically finding appreciation and gratitude in situations that we could have potentially overlooked before, or in things that are happening in everyday life, being able to look at them through a positive lens and questioning them and finding how is it that those situations, those things, those people, the different circumstances, what kind of meaning do they have for us in this current situation? Yeah, I think that wraps it up for me.
I hope I'm not embarrassing you, Ewelina, but we were talking about how anxious we were before this at like 4:48 p.m. Eastern time.
That's not embarrassing at all.
And you just did so wonderful. And I think thinking about that, like these are these big questions and how do we hold them? And that just made me breathe a bit easier. So thank you, Ewelina. And I think that was a lot of information, but as I said in my email, if you received it, I will be doing a follow-up with resources, and we'll be talking about definitions, articles, and studies you can look at, because wonder is so complex and there's so many benefits to it. So typically we think of wonder as being able to experience something new. That's not necessarily what it is in our lens. It's about having a new perspective of enjoying something differently. So I think there are a lot of benefits to talking about wonder in your everyday. And because I said I love science, I wanted to find out if that was true. And there were tons of studies and articles about what benefits there are, about people who are open to wonder and open to seeking awe. So I want to just run through that briefly, and then I'll share them afterwards. But really, engaging in wonder is about a reintroduction into your own life, as Ewelina said. Challenges you to slow down, attune to what's going on, and be fascinated by it, holding it uniquely in where you are in your current time. A 2012 study, my reference point, so I'm looking left because that's where my notes are, showed that those who experienced awe actually felt that they had more time available for themselves and for others. They were less impatient and experienced greater life satisfaction and lower stress levels. And that's exactly what we need in this time right now. It slows down the passage of time, and it really encourages someone to be more collaborative, be more kind with themselves and others. And it's been proven to show a strengthened relationship with connection to yourself and others. So building community, especially when you are experiencing something new or with a new lens, you're bonding with the people you're enjoying that time with. A 2015 study also showed that there were physical benefits to being inspired or in wonderment. And I think this is important for this time too. It also, this study showed lower rates of inflammation and higher immune system response. So we'll be sharing those studies with you, but I think this is the right time to be talking about wonder. This probably every time is the right time to be talking about it, but I think we're situated in a really special spot in our history to talk about wonder and how we can find that in our everyday life. Okay, so that was a lot of Ewelina and I chatting. Before we move into that next portion, our 45 minutes of doing practical application, how are we doing? If you just want to give a thumbs up or a sound off, we just want to check in. Oh, we're getting hands up. Okay. Y'all good to continue?
Please do.
Great. This is so nice. It's good seeing all of you. So let's do some practical application. So I'm gonna go through what the next 45 minutes is gonna look like, and then I'm gonna repeat because I think it can get kind of confusing because we're gonna set up this time pretty uniquely. So I'm gonna just let you know what my hope is. For the next 45 minutes, we have about 5 exercises. If we don't get to them, we'll have 4 exercises and a homework task. And we'll practice one at a time. We'll describe the activity, give you the prompt to reflect or engage with for about roughly 3 to 5 minutes. I will notify you when we have 1 minute left. That's very important. I got my peace bowl for that. So if you can hear me, I'm gonna show you the sound now so you can recognize it when I do it in the activity, okay? Can you all hear that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, awesome. I think one thing that Zoom rooms are requiring us to be is more transparent and intentional with our language. And so I'm trying to do that, but in the chat box, please ask if you have questions. Okay, so with 1 minute left, you'll hear that ding, so don't go too far away. You'll be able to wrap up the reflection or if you're journaling. And then after that, after we all come back and settle in, we'll invite people to share. We think we'll only have time for about 2 to 3 people, but we'll see. We'll do a check-in. And then we'll give the next activity and the next prompt. Okay. So if one doesn't see you, that's okay. Again, this is invitational. So we ask that you just sit with what you're feeling or try something new that works for you. We've identified these exercises to be grounding for the present moment. The activities, experiences, applications, whatever we're calling them, will go through our ways to find awe in accessible formats that are surrounding you when you don't have access to things that amaze us in the greater world. So specifically, I think, when I said that we usually think wonder is looking at the Grand Canyon or going to a new country to explore. But really, today we have time to find wonder on the granular level, not just the grand. So we're hopefully having exercises that you can do in your home whenever it suits you. The prompts are for accessing those senses every day. And we're also hopeful that these are accessible for various identities or diverse lived experiences. So we found things that had met sensory, we found things that maybe were for all class identities, some things that you can find in your home. Hold on 1 second, sorry. Just checking in here. Okay, we're still good. So you can mute yourself and turn off your video during the activity itself. So it doesn't interfere with someone else's reflection. And I'll ring the bell within 1 minute to remind you. Again, so don't go that far away. And if you have questions during the activity, please use the chat box so you're not distracting others. And I'll try and respond promptly or have Ewelina respond since she's the co-host, okay? Okay, that was a lot of direction without actually having direction. So again, we'll do one activity with a prompt to reflect on, however you find it fitting to reflect on. If that's journaling, if that's just sitting in the moment. You'll have a reminder of 1 minute left. We'll gather back, a couple people will share, and then we'll go on to the next activity and prompt. How does that sound?
Good.
Okay. The first time I read through that, I got lost myself. You all are troopers. Okay. All right. So Ewelina, do you want to take it away with our first prompt, which is our longest one?
I'm ready.
Okay.
So this one is my favorite, something that I enjoy doing often. And so there's different ways that you can do this. And so I'm going to lead you in a guided body meditation that will not take a very long time. So if you would like to get comfortable in your seat, you can lay down, though sometimes people tend to get sleepy if they lay down. I'm not sure if you will hear the bell if you fall asleep. But of course, you can decide what you prefer to do at your comfort level. So I will begin. Okay, I'd like for you to get comfortable in your chair and just relax. Take a deep breath and place your feet flat on the floor. Really feeling your feet in contact with the ground underneath you. And just take a few more deep breaths like this for a moment. I'd like for you to start focusing on your toes. Scrunch them up and then release. And really feel your feet in contact with the ground underneath you. Remember, let any thoughts you may have float up and away from you in an air bubble. Now relax your legs, the pelvic area, and your back. What sensations can you feel in your legs and in your back? Now place your hands on your stomach and take 1 to 3 deep breaths. Notice as your stomach is rising and falling with each in and out breath. Let your hands fall back to a comfortable position. Moving upward, relax your shoulders, relax your neck, and relax your jaw. Take a deep breath in, and as you breathe out, let go of any tension. Finally, the top of your head, I'd like you to hunch your shoulders up one last time. And as you release your shoulders, release any remaining tension and let it sink down and float out of you. Breathe deeply in, and as you breathe out, slowly start to notice what feels differently in your body. Take a few more deep breaths and enjoy this feeling. Enjoy the difference in feeling of the tension leaving your body. I'd like you to now slowly bring your attention back to the room that you are sitting in. Begin noticing the sounds around you, and when you are ready, open your eyes. And so we will just allow people a moment to return back to the room when we see the cameras turn back on. And so that was a short body scan exercise, which allows for you to reflect on being present in the space that you are in. So as you're coming back into this space, into this conversation, if you would like to share, what is something that you noticed about your body, and what is something that maybe was new to you?
So I think we're actually going to give you some time to sit with that, a couple minutes to sit with what was new for you and what did you notice. I'm going to put that question up. I'm going to share my screen again so you can sit with that question, and then we'll bring it back to respond as a larger group. So Ewelina, can you just say the questions again you want them to reflect on?
Yes, so just reflect on, what did you notice about your body, and what was new for you?
Oh.
Sounds like somebody's ready to share.
It might be Michael.
Are you hoping that someone will share now?
I think we're just going to give people a couple more minutes to finish journaling, and then if anybody is open to share, that will be wonderful.
we have 20 seconds left. Someone had said they didn't hear the sound. So I just want to also say it. Can you hear me?
For sure.
Let's gather back, gather your thoughts. Ewelina, do you want to post the questions again?
Yeah, so what did you notice? What is something that was new for you? And what did you notice about your body that you are willing to share? When I do this exercise, I notice about myself that I hold a lot of tension in my neck. And I noticed that a few years ago, so I try to be always very conscious of trying to relax the tension in my neck. So maybe there's something that you notice about your body, but also if you are a super relaxed person, which I envy you if you are, maybe you notice that there's particular thoughts that keep coming and going as you're trying to focus on your body. Yeah, so if anybody would like to, that would be wonderful.
I felt my attention in me as you were sort of taking me through the exercise. I was way more focused on just floating around inside myself, which was a very relaxing, like floating on a warm lake.
Had you engaged in exercises like this before, Patty?
Yes, I have.
Okay, very cool. Thank you.
I too felt like I was floating, so I just drew myself, especially with my hands back on water. You're just held, and such calm abiding came as a result of that floating.
Very nice. I like the self-portrait. It looks good. Did anyone notice something that they hadn't noticed about themselves before?
Only in this specific moment. I know that my shoulders have been tight, but I have not experienced that today. I didn't actually realize until you had us lift them or release them that, oh, those muscles are still really sore. So that was a new piece for me at the moment.
Thank you for sharing that. So like Justine talked about before, that there are health benefits to engaging in exercises that allow us to seek awe and question wonder, or however way you look at those particular terms. But engaging in exercises like this allows for you to become aware of how your body is feeling, and especially during this time when we can be feeling so much stress around us, we can be holding stress in different areas of our body, and that can later impact our health. So allowing ourselves to be in the present moment, to reach a very calm state of mind, to allow our bodies to relax, can also allow for us to become in tune with places of our body that maybe we were not aware of before, so that later we can address those and continue to become a healthy person.
All right, we all did the first exercise. That's wonderful, and I think we are amazing. So there's that. Let's try the second one then. So our next exercise, after the instructions, don't leave me yet, but after the instructions, I ask that you sit at your window or open a door that you have, or go to a space you haven't been in a while. We don't know what your structures are or where you're at right now, but we're hoping one of those options you'll be able to find space. Using your senses, take in that space in all ways possible. Maybe it's that same hallway you've walked through 100 times, or maybe it's that kitchen sink that you look out when you're doing the dishes. But what can you look at if you let yourself truly see? What did you notice that you haven't noticed before? And what are you hearing, seeing, feeling, and smelling? So I'm going to put the question up. It's exercise 2. We're going to give you 5 minutes for this to just sit in that, write about it, notice in whatever way you do. And then I'll give you a 1-minute warning. So 4 minutes in, I'll give you a 1-minute heads up. And then we'll all kind of come back and talk about that exercise. Okay? Okay, so I'll share my screen with that question. All right, let's gather back, gather your thoughts. We're still missing some people, so hopefully this activity was good and they just didn't go.
I think they're just reflecting a lot.
Okay. That's the positive, right, Ewelina? Good job.
That's right.
All right, for those of you who are back, we'll let people finish up wherever they're at. For those of you who are back and can hear me, what was something you noticed that you hadn't noticed before? And what is something that caught your eye that surprised you? You are welcome to sit with those questions. You can use the chat box, or you can unmute yourself and speak into our gathering.
I like to speak on this. So in my office, I have two big windows, and I just pulled up the shade and looked out. It started to snow, each flake slowly descending. The trees are still bare and sway gently. The ground now covered in a white mask to match the one I must wear.
That's poetry.
Yes. Well, Juanita is our resident writer. Thank you, Juanita. Thank you.
Well, like Juanita, I went to the window. I was struck earlier by even the tiniest sounds, a clock that's ticking, a distant TV barely on in another room with another person, the traffic. But when I went to the window, I could see the flowers blowing. There's a bit of a breeze out there today, and I could see the clouds all moving, and they do it silently. There is no sound, and yet everything is in motion. That was new for me. I had not thought about that.
That's great, Mary Jane. Wonderful. Thank you.
Patricia here. I chose not to go and look outside because I know I'll find beauty there and wonder. So I looked at my stairwell and the foyer in my house, and I saw that I see signs of life, clutter in parentheses, everywhere, shoes, bags, hats, stuff. I can also see art, a weaving, a print, a bronze figure, musical instruments, drum, gourd, whistle, and books galore. I hear chopping outside. That which usually captures my attention in ways that I want to change, I can shift my I see that I can shift my attention to those things which I love and that give me joy. That's what I saw differently.
Thank you, Patricia, for that. That's wonderful. We also had Patty share on chat, which is wonderful, about a new appreciation for guardianship of trees out in the front yard. Wonderful.
I saw hyacinth, and a poem by Rumi surfaced. If I had but 2 dole, I'd sell them all and buy hyacinths to feed the soul. And the smell is quite strong.
Thank you. Wonderful. You all are seeing and experiencing such a variety of things. I'm curious what everyone else is thinking, but I will not push, and we probably can move on to our next activity, Ewelina.
Okay. So now let's focus on food. Did you bring your snack or your recipe? If you did, you can hold it up to the camera. Some people I see brought a recipe. Some people brought a snack. My favorite snack is chocolate, so I have a jar of chocolate right here that somebody gifted me. They know me too well. So in this activity, we are going to focus on memories and emotions and the sense of smell and eyesight. We are going to think about the recipe that we have in front of us or the snack that we have in front of us. So put it in front of you, take a look at it, and read through the recipe, or you can eat your snack.
Maybe mute yourself if you eat your snack, though. We didn't write that, but now that I'm thinking about it.
We might be jealous if you are eating without us.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, so reflect on the recipe that you have in front of you if you were not able to bring your snack, or enjoy your snack, or just think about it and process the memories that this particular food brings to you. So think about what emotions resonate with you when you think of this type of food. What people do you think about? When is the last time that you enjoyed this particular food? Who were you with? What were you doing? And just take some time to think about this particular food and really process it and reflect on the memories that come to mind. So we will give you a few minutes to think about this and to journal if you would like to. And then we will invite you to discuss what is it that has come to mind as you are reflecting on this. Okay. Welcome back, everyone.
Oh no, that was the 1 minute warning.
Sorry.
That's okay. But let's start to gather back.
Okay, just a couple people are missing. So for those of us that are back, if you would like to, what kinds of emotions or memories came to mind as you were reflecting on the food that you were either reading the recipe of or that you were deliciously enjoying?
I was reading a recipe that I have that's one of my favorites for rose petal jam. And it reminded me last summer of the last time that I made it. And I was teaching a friend of mine how to make it. She wanted to know the recipe. And I could see the bright sunlight and feel the warmth of the sun when we were in the backyard collecting the rose petals from one of my rose bushes. And I could remember the spicy smell of the roses and feeling a sense of accomplishment because I knew how to do something, and feeling satisfied that I could teach somebody else how to do it.
That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing.
So I did not eat mine. These are my very favorite cookies, Biscoff cookies. They're Belgian. And I see a number of smiles across the gallery that other people know what these cookies are. And I'm a human rights activist, and I normally am traveling. And I'm traveling to New York, to the UN, to DC, to the lobby. I have worked more specifically and particularly in Africa to end criminalization and persecution of LGBT people worldwide. And I usually bring these as a host gift for wherever I'm staying. And I also bring an extra one in my bag, and I give them to the gate agents at the airline when I check in. So I am missing the people that my colleagues that I work with in social justice and human rights. And I'm also thinking about those people whose lives are challenged not only physically, but also economically. I'm thinking about the least of these. So for me, it's Biscoff cookies.
Right.
That's great. Thank you.
I think we have time for one more person to share if you'd be interested to be that person.
I have a recipe that my sister-in-law fixed. The date on it is 2003. It's creamy chicken breast. It was so delicious I asked for it, and I have been fixing it ever since then. The last time I fixed it was when Mary Jane and George came down from Pennsylvania to Jacksonville the end of February, and all of us siblings and spouses got together. It's a recipe you just can't mess up, and it tastes delicious.
That's wonderful. Well, thank you everyone for
I
sharing.
think that recipe should be shared somehow.
It makes me want to learn more about
Yeah,
all of your recipes, and your memories that you're bringing with it is so sweet. You know, Kirkridge had a cookbook years ago, and I think it's time to reinvent that. Oh, hear from Melissa in the chat. Granola from the retreat center. Absolutely. Lots of good memories of comfort food at Kirkridge for me already in my short time here. So at the beginning, we talked about 5 exercises, and our time has just flown. We have about 13 minutes left and not enough time for 2 exercises and reflective questions and a closing. So I'm just naming that we're gonna adapt our schedule a little bit. The 2 exercises are my favorite, and you'll get them as homework now if you choose to do it or not. And I think we'll end with grateful hands and texture. So using your hands. I had talked about this exercise because I often think about my grandmother, and her hands were so worn and wrinkly, and they were beautiful, but she didn't see it that way. And I just thought of all the children she had raised, the homes she had moved, the life she had lived with these hands. So if that suits you and it calls to you, think about your own hands in that way. What have they brought you? And if you need a little bit more something, the other exercise is taking your hands, find something that's easily accessible with texture. So it could be oatmeal, since we're talking about granola, handful of paper clips you rub together, rubbing a leaf of a house plant, peeling a carrot, touching your rug. I wouldn't touch mine, but maybe you want to touch your rug and see what that texture's like. What are the sensations you're feeling physically and emotionally? So try and not get too messy with this one, but what unique experience are you having, and how does this feed your curiosity? So you'll have about 4 minutes with this, lots of questions, lots of prompts, but we're just trying to squeeze the last bit of good out of this. So I'll give you 4 minutes and 1 minute warning, and we'll come back to wrap up our time together. 1 minute left. As we gather back, sit with those questions. It was a double whammy of an exercise and question. So whatever moves you to share, that's the end of our exercises. So you can talk about anyone that moves you with our last couple minutes together.
So I missed the instruction to bring a recipe or a piece of food, but when you were talking about it, what I started thinking of, what has all these memories attached to it, is matzah, and how much that's been a part of a family tradition, and how when I think of it, it has to go with eggs and horseradish and all sorts of wonderful food, and how much I look forward to it once a year, and how bored I get with it by the end of 7 days. So it was a fun thing to see that as a symbol of something reaching back into deep family roots. And then moving forward, I'd like to say that on Zoom this year, we shared the J Street Haggadah, which is a progressive Jewish organization. And what I so treasured about it was that the prayers and reflections were acknowledging the horrendous ways that Israel treats Palestinians, and our obligation to change that, our obligation to understand that because we were once slaves in the land of Egypt, we have an obligation to make sure that other people do not have that and have social justice. So the matzah brought back all this kind of plethora of thoughts and images, and I thank you for it.
Thank you, Michael, for sharing with us.
Justine, I have a one about the hands. When I was like a young woman, young adolescent, and I grew up in a farming family, I remember learning to peel an apple. And like I would watch my mother and my grandmother and like, how do they do that? It's so easy. And I was thinking about how now my hands do so many things without me having to consciously look at them. So now I can peel an apple and kind of almost close my eyes, but just the body, the memory, the body intelligence of an activity, and how it just becomes part of you. Like you don't even know your hands are doing it.
Thanks, Melissa. Michael also had a comment in the chat box about his hands. That's great.
My hands always have paint on them. So then I gave myself permission to paint each finger. And as I sat here, I just painted each finger and dressed them up. And this talk today, I love to paint, and I heard about trees in people's yard and being guardians. So I could just sit in front of the trees in my yard and just sketch really quickly. With my hands, I make cinnamon buns, and the smell of cinnamon wafting in the air, just making those hands in dough and painting that. And so there, you use the word plethora. There's just this huge, from everyone sharing here, there's so much wisdom. And I was thinking of the body thing that we did at the beginning. My yoga teacher always says, notice what you notice. And so I think this experience and wonder has got me noticing more.
Thank you. I think that's a lot of it, is just taking the time to notice. And that's one of our hopes, at least, was noticing the minute that makes so much of what we are and what we do. So that's a great check-in. Do we have one? Yeah. Monica, are you raising your hand?
Yes, I am. I'm raising my hand. I also just wanted to share about hands, because I have very poor sensitivity in my fingertips. And so that makes my experience with my hands a little bit different. It's very helpful when I'm cooking or something. I can touch really hot things and it doesn't bother me. But when I'm right now, because I've been cooking a lot more, I have little tiny cuts all over my fingers because I have this poor sensitivity, so I can injure myself a little bit without even realizing it. So it's the reflection I was doing on my hands, looking at all these little cuts, is that this is kind of where I'm at now, where I'm realizing with my hands, I've grown to notice that I have to work a little bit harder to pay attention to what I'm touching, what I'm affecting, what I'm working with. And I think that's where we're all at right now, that we have to pay more attention, that we have to work a little bit harder to see what's not working and what's needed. And also I've noticed with my hands that I often have to use my other senses more, like I have to watch what I'm doing more carefully to make sure I don't hurt myself, that I don't burn myself by touching something too hot, and things like that. And that's the other thing I'm noticing. And I love your exercise about what do you smell, what are you feeling physically. So I think, again, in this time, I feel called to just be more alive, be more aware. I feel like in some ways we are kind of asleep. And if I let my hands just sleep, I can get into trouble. So anyways, that's my reflection. I don't know, it's rambling, sorry about that, but that's what I wanted to share.
Monica, I love it. And that's a perfect reflection. I wish I would have invited you to close for us, because I think that's a wonderful space to be at, is the noticing, the granular and the grand, and how they're connected. I think earlier I had kind of put them here and here, but to me now they're on this continuum of what we notice in and out, small and large. And that was really the purpose of the day. So I'm grateful for all of your reflections. And I think that's a really sweet note to leave it on. And it is 6:30. And if you have met me, you would know how much I love keeping to time. So I just want to close with thanking all of you and thanking Ewelina. Logistical things, we've recorded this. And so I will be sharing our PowerPoint questions, the recording, and the references. So some quotes, videos, and articles. That will be in your inbox shortly with a short survey. This is new, again, for all of us, as I shared earlier. And we welcome that feedback. This is a new way of doing things. So just to close really quickly with a quote from Eden Philpott. "The world is full of magic things, patiently waiting for our wits to grow sharper." I hope this time has really empowered us together to find the magic in our everyday lives, find the wonder, question the wonder, engage in the awe. And I hope you'll stay tuned with what else Kirkridge is offering to engage us in this personal and communal time of uncertainty and anew. So thank you all so much. I really enjoyed this time. So thank you for being with us. And thanks again, Ewelina, for helping.
Thank you.
Thank you both.
Thank you both. This is really
Yes.
great.
Thank
Bye
you.
now.
Take care, everyone.
Thank you.
You too.
Be safe and healthy out there.
Okay.
Bye.
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 Staying on a little because people are still chatting. Thanks, Patty.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Ewelina, I'm going to close out the meeting and stop recording and we'll chat, okay?
Cool. Talk to you later.